The pyramids of Giza, the Sphinx, great mysteries of an ancient land. What secrets of the human soul rest silently along the banks of the Nile River? Find out next as we rediscover the mystical spirituality of ancient Egypt. The 21st century, the beginning of a new era. We stand at the threshold of a time filled with rapid change, uncertainty, and monumental possibilities. Visionaries have pointed to this time as a turning point for humanity. One such man was the American clairvoyant Edgar Cayce. From holistic healing to spiritual development, the world that Edgar Cayce predicted is now emerging, inviting us to explore the new millennium.
As we enter a new millennium, a deeper understanding of our spiritual nature is emerging. Some new insights come from synthesizing the ideas of the great religions of the modern world. Other breakthroughs come from new forms of psychology. But just as important is the rediscovery of spiritual wisdom from ancient myths and religions, none more important than Egyptian mysticism. I'm Mark Thurston. I'm joined today by John Van Auken, author of Ancient Egyptian Mysticism. Welcome to the program, John.
Thank you, Mark.
Of all the civilizations that have come and gone through history, none of them capture our imagination more than ancient Egypt. Why do you think that is?
Well, I think it was a high level of civilization. It had some of the most compelling imagery, some fascinating spiritual concepts, and they're also well preserved.
Yeah. Ancient Egypt covered thousands of years, and their spirituality certainly evolved and matured. But what are some of the themes and images that we see there?
Well, I guess we could start with Ra, the source of all life being the sun. This idea, actually pronounced Re, is that this great one ray projected out many rays of life, of which we are some of those rays of life from that one source. Then they developed a concept of the moon god, or the reflected light. And in this case, the idea is that the source of wisdom can actually be reflected in you through science and literature. And we have the god Hermes, or Thoth, as the Egyptians called him. And this is a reflected sort of wisdom. Then we move toward a fascinating idea of a hidden or unseen god, Amun. And that this God is the influence of the Spirit in our lives that we don't necessarily see, but is ever there. And then, fascinatingly enough, we move to the idea of the God Atan, or the one God. Actually, though, this only was dominant for a short period when you consider the thousands of years of ancient Egypt. Only about 30-some years was Atan promoted by Akhenaten. Atan is a one God who cares for all. And then I would say another fascinating spiritual concept is the idea of Osiris and Horus, the gods of the spirit of resurrection and redemption from mistakes or evil, a savior kind of idea.
Now, how do we know all this about ancient Egypt? There's virtually no books.
Yeah. Much of it is carved or painted on the walls of their tombs or ancient temples. Then there actually are books, there are scrolls, papyrus paper in which the whole story is written just like a book using hieroglyphs and pictures to convey the concepts.
Now, I would think when virtually any of us consider Egypt, we think of the Sphinx and the Great Pyramid. Are there hints about Egyptian spirituality contained in those monuments?
Yes, I think there are. The whole Giza Plateau is laid out as the land of the dead, and the east bank of the Nile would be the land of the living. So those in the physically living world would cross the barrier of the Nile, or for us that barrier of the unconscious mind, and through a series of transitions that begin with the Valley Temple and the causeways and the funerary temples and on into the pyramids, and then out into the duat of outer space, there is the layout of the transition from physical life to deeper, mystical, spiritual life.
Now, you've been to the Sphinx and the Pyramid many times, taken groups of people there for seminars. From the things you've actually seen yourself or experienced yourself, what's the most striking aspect of Egyptian spirituality?
For me, I guess it would have to be the ever-presence of God concept, that God permeates all of life, and that there are stages of becoming conscious of that.
And as you travel with people and have experiences there yourself, do you see this as a quickening for the visitors?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Many of the travelers with me and other tours all report how overwhelmed and impressed they are with the grandeur and the well-preserved quality of the material. We're talking 2,000 to 4,000 years old, and it's so well preserved.
It certainly inspires us all, doesn't it?
Yes.